Where's Devin at? Yeah, Devin. What's up, man? Stand up, bro. So obviously, like, I played against y'all, right? When I found out he was a walk-on, I'm like, what the hell going on over there? So first order of business, I'm gonna pull rank right now. You on scholarship, all right, dog? Yeah. So that, I guess that's what it feels like to flex a little bit as a head coach, you know what I'm saying? So congratulations, man.
Ryan Walters already making his presence felt in West Lafayette, awarding one of the best walk-ons in the country, Devin Maccabee, a scholarship alongside my favorite walk-on, Howard Griffith. I am Dave Revson. Ryan Walters set to be introduced in just a minute or so as the new head coach at Purdue. We have been around him the last couple of years, his tenure as the defensive coordinator at Illinois. Your thoughts?
It's really an exciting time for he and his family, because you only need to sit down with him for a couple of minutes and you immediately know the type of guy he is and the fact that he's going to have an impact at Purdue. He's bright. He really has a great way of teaching young people, and that's the important part to be able to be successful in this business. You have to be able to connect, and that was a great way to connect in your first meeting with the team.
No doubt. He's great with the X's and O's. Yeah. He has shown that with how good Illinois' defense has been, #1 in the nation in scoring D, but incredibly personable as well, a really good recruiter. Let's get out to West Lafayette right now and join the athletic director of the Boilermakers, Mike Bobinski.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming today. Welcome, everybody. A couple of distinguished guests that I want to make sure we recognize before we get into the business of the day here. I know we've got President Daniels, President-elect Chang. Thank them so much for being with us today. We've got some trustees here, Malcolm DeKruiger, Gary Lehman. I don't know if Joanne made it or not, but all these folks are like really important partners to our success here in football. So really thank you for taking the time to be with us. This is hold on. It's a really exciting day for Purdue football here. And to temper that excitement, I'm going to invite Chairman Mike Berghoff up here of our Board of Trustees to say a few things. So, Chairman Berghoff,
it's all yours. I wasn't expecting this. Sorry about that. Good afternoon. As Mike said, I'm Mike Berghoff. I'm chair of the Board of Trustees. And but the first thing I want to do is thank our student athletes on the football team for managing this week with professionalism and class. Things happen quickly in a change like this, and sometimes it can go off the rails in the locker room, but it didn't. So thank you, student athletes, because you enhanced our reputation by managing your week the way you did. Another thing that enhances our reputation is winning. Winning at the highest level in sports and academics. And when we're out on a search with the athletic director, I just want you to know that your board, your president, the president-elect, the athletic staff is aligned in our commitment to winning. And Coach is going to help us do that. Welcome, Coach, to you and your family.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it very much and appreciate your help through the process here. So talk a little bit about where we are and what's going on these last couple days since the news broke last week that Coach Braun was moving on. This has been a distinctly different search than it was 6 years ago. Back then, we were presenting basically a reclamation project, and we were looking for a coach that was skilled enough and willing to take that on, and we were fortunate to find that in Coach Braun, and grateful for everything he did for us over these last 6 years. However, today it's different. We had a different opportunity to present. It's now sustaining, growing, and scaling our success to a brand new level. Just like there 6 years ago, though, we had some baseline criteria, some things that are non-negotiables as we look for a new head coach, and that's first and foremost a leader of integrity, somebody who's ethical, high character, has a strong academic orientation, as Mike mentioned, recognizing the strength of Purdue's academic mission and the priority of that, making sure that we never lose sight of that in what we do. This is college football, by the way. Intelligence. I always skew towards hiring the smartest people I can find. It balances off my presence in the department, so it's a good thing. A history of success and growth in their career. And then finally, a belief in our opportunity at Purdue. Not just in any opportunity, but our opportunity here at Purdue is what matters most to us. During the course of this search, we had a chance to interact with a very healthy number of candidates, all of whom met the baseline criteria. We were really fortunate to have lots of great interest, and that's a really, really good thing. We also thought back, okay, as Purdue's had success in years gone by in football, it's when we've been able to do something distinctive, be innovative in some way. And so we thought about that as we began to evaluate candidates. And as we did that, one individual exceeded those baseline criteria by a mile, but also brought the opportunity to do something distinctive and innovative. Before I get into that a little bit more specifically about Coach Ryan Walters, I want to talk a little bit about how we view those things, or how I view those things. So people go through life in different ways. There's the average folks, like myself. There's the slightly above average, like Chairman Berghoff, who just kind of things, life happens, and you learn and grow from experiences that sort of occur to you on a day in, day out basis. And then there are exceptional people who intentionally engage with each day and each experience. They have aspirations, they have goals, they have a motivation to achieve big things in their life. And everything they do is focused on growing, being better than they were the day before, and moving themselves towards those aspirations. What we have sitting here today is an absolutely exceptional person in Ryan Walters. He is that person in every way. The first 10 minutes that we had a chance to visit with Ryan, 4 days ago, whenever that was, he recounted his career as a football coach, which began as the youngest Power 5 assistant in the country at age 24 at the University of Arizona. And he talked about every stop that he's had along the way, how he grew, what he learned, how he approached each and every experience that he had. That, again, to me, is the hallmark of an exceptional person, somebody who clearly has been on fast forward. I mean, he has packed a tremendous amount of growth and perspective and reputational expansion over a relatively short but impactful 12 years as a college football coach. In terms of distinctive, I talked again about how Purdue's been successful when we've been distinctive, when we've been innovative. Well, this coach's defense, and I know that's a word here that makes people nervous, for God's sakes, like we don't want to play defense, but it is unique. It is disruptive. It's his defense. Just as Coach Braun brought his offense to us, which caused people lots of problems over the last 6 years, Coach Walters is going to bring his defense, not somebody else's, not some variation on some other theme. It is his. It is his unique design. He keeps the secret recipe, like the formula for Coke, in his pocket. He doesn't share it with anybody else. In fact, he mentioned that it's fun to watch other people try to copy it because it doesn't quite look the same or feel the same. He said, but that's because I don't tell them how to really do it. And so watching film is one thing, but knowing how to do it is something different. By the way, I think we still intend to play offense. We're not going to just, 3 and out and get back to playing defense for 60 minutes. We're going to play some real offense here. That is, we know that. We know it's exciting. We know our fans love it. I love it. And I'll let Coach talk more about that as time goes by here. The other chance that we have to be distinctive and innovative, in my opinion, and that has a lot to do with the unique personality, sort of the Pied Piper persona that Ryan has, where people want to be around him. They want to work with him. They want to relate to him in really, really good ways, is to build, in my opinion, the most connected and cohesive football organization in the country. He will attract a high-performance staff that will be second to none. We have given him the opportunity and the resources to do so. I know that his phone is going crazy at this point with people that want to come work with him here at Purdue. Being able to do that, being able to build that organization in that format will be yet one more competitive advantage for us. There is no limitation on our ability to do that. That's just us. That's finding the right people, creating the right culture, creating the right vibe in and around this building and in everybody that touches our football organization. I know this. Ryan Walters can and will do that. That's who he is. He knows nothing but high performance. He knows nothing but excellence, and I can't wait to see that get going here. It's already going, to be honest with you, but to see it really take shape in the days ahead. The last thing I'm going to say is, we knew, and I knew very quickly what we had here in Ryan. But just yesterday, in the afternoon that we had a chance to spend with Ryan and his family, you get a sense for somebody when you see him interact with their family. Wife Tara, Aaron, Kaysen, two boys that are all boy and full on, man, all gas, no brakes. But watching them just as a family, the connection, the love, all of it, just says, man, this is a real person. This is an authentic, genuine person that we've got leading our program here. So I will stop right now. That's enough of me, and I just want to say it is my great pleasure to introduce Purdue's new head football coach and welcome Coach Ryan Walters, Tara, Aaron, and Kaysen to the Purdue family. Coach Walters, welcome.
Wow, this is real life, huh? It's been a dream. I feel like I've been floating the past couple days, but this is real, and this is awesome. It's a dream come true. First and foremost, I want to thank every player who has put on the old gold and black. You guys have made this program what it is. You are more than welcome to come back. Please come back and support this program. These doors are open to you to the end of time. I'd like to thank AD Mike Babinski, Deputy AD Tiffany Grimes, Board of Trustees Chairman Mike Berghoff, President Mitch Daniels, and President-elect Moon Chang for trusting me and believing me to lead this program and be your new head football coach. I'd also like to thank Coach Braum for his tenure here, his leadership here. I'd like to thank the late Joe Tiller for setting the standard of what it means to be a successful coach at Purdue University. I'd like to thank the University of Illinois and the Champaign-Urbana community for opening their arms and embracing my family and I these last 2 seasons. I'd like to thank their administration and staff for providing a platform and a environment that allowed for growth. I'd like to thank Coach Bielema for pouring into me and being my mentor, telling me things that I didn't want to hear at times, and also motivating me and encouraging me. I'd like to thank those players in the locker room who poured their hearts out for us every day and did exactly what we asked them to do. And I'd like to thank the defensive staff for sharpening me and challenging me on a daily basis. I'd also like to thank my family, my wife, Tara, who has been by my side since I was a junior in high school, so I've been tricking her every day for a long time. I'd like to thank my 2 boys, Aaron and Kaysen, for letting Daddy do what he does and chasing my dream. I hope that today you realize that it is possible to do whatever you want to do, man. Don't compromise for anybody and continue to chase those dreams till you reach them. I'd also like to thank my parents, Mark and Nicole Walters, who grew up in Los Angeles, California, and started way, way, way too early. They had me when they were 16 in high school, and my pops, he was a high school quarterback and got recruited to the University of Colorado and played quarterback there. So I grew up in the locker room. Football it's in me. I grew up with a football attached to my hand, and it just so happened that I was already bleeding black and gold. So as all young kids do when they're introduced to this game, everybody wants to be a quarterback, right? So that's exactly what I wanted to do. My dad was a quarterback. Grew up watching quarterbacks, and I could still spin it a little bit. So you fast forward to 2001, where I'm a sophomore in high school, the starting varsity quarterback, starting to get recruited on a national scale. And that was my first introduction to this university. Drew Brees was the quarterback here. He was accurate. He got the ball out on time, scored a lot of touchdowns. In winter vacations, right, during the Christmas break, my family and I would go back to Los Angeles and spend time with our family there. And I remember going to Disneyland and seeing Drew Brees on a parade in 2001 for the Rose Bowl. And I thought to myself, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. I want to be a quarterback one day at a high-profile university. I want to go to the NFL and play quarterback. I want to be a quarterback of a Super Bowl winning team. But things change, right? And change can be difficult at times, and it was difficult for me then. And we are in a changing time right now. And it's not difficult because it's good or bad. It's difficult because it's different. And there are some things that I know true about the game of football. Right? I know that the quarterback position is the most important position in sports, period. And so one thing that will remain the same here, that will not change, is that we will have a cradle of quarterbacks and we will have a den of defensive ends. So offensively, what are we looking for, right? On offense, we'll be creative. We'll be explosive, both in the air and on the ground. We'll be strategically aggressive. And we're going to put points on the board, and we're going to put them on the board in bunches. And on defense, you already know how we get down. We'll confuse and harass the quarterback. We will stop the run. We're going to generate takeaways in momentum plays. From snap to whistle, it is going to be organized chaos. But from whistle to snap, it's going to be laser-like focus. We will first win games from not losing them, and you will be proud of the product that we put on the field on Saturdays. Together with the staff that we're going to bring in, with the administration, with this university, and with y'all's support, we're going to build this program the right way, through hard work, through class, through integrity, and an unmatched competitive edge to go chase and win championships. And we're not shying away from any of that. Words can't describe how humbled and how excited I am to be your head football coach. Thank you for this opportunity, and boiler up.
President Daniels will come up and give a few remarks.
Yeah, Coach, things do change, and sometimes fast. 7 days ago, I didn't think I could feel worse. And as the last 72 hours, I couldn't feel better for all the reasons Mike outlined and you just personified. I'm so excited for what you're going to do here, and I'm so confident about how good it's going to be. I got some very good news for you. For the last 10 years, I've been kind of busy. I've only been able to be a part-time offensive coordinator. I'm available full-time now, and I got lots of ideas that I know you're going to want to hear. Welcome to the family. This is a family-oriented place. I hope you've already seen that. So I've already tendered Aaron a scholarship. We've got to watch Case in a couple more weeks, but I think he's good for one too. But we're really thrilled to have you. And lastly, I'll just say, no one could be luckier than I have the last 10 years to be associated with the finest athletic program in the country, and standards of conduct, academic standards, and of course competitive up and down the 20 sports we compete in. Finest athletic director in the country. I say that with full conviction. And so I'm just happy to say to my successor, Mung, you got dealt the same great hand I did. This is going to be a great experience. I hope it'll be as great for you as I know you will make it for all us fans. Thank you. Awesome.
Here we go.
So Ryan Walters being introduced as the new head coach at Purdue. Again, taking over for Jeff Brom, who moved on to his alma mater of Louisville after winning 36 games during his tenure at Purdue, and of course took over a really difficult situation from Darrell Hazel, who won just 9 preceding him. 36 wins in 6 years, makes him the 5th winningest coach in Purdue history. And now Ryan Walters taking the mantle. And I thought it was interesting. We're going to head back out to West Lafayette, by the way, in just a bit for Q&A with the media. But in the interim, Dave Revson, Howard Griffith, I thought it was interesting that the bulk of what Ryan Walters talked about was offense, Howard. Mm-hmm. And I think that there was a natural assumption here that Purdue was going to hire an offensive-minded coach. Yeah. It's where their bread's been buttered through the years. Again, the cradle quarterbacks, as we know, Jeff Brom was very innovative offensively, and I thought Ryan Walters very strategically opened up by talking about what he's going to do on offense and by talking about his background as an offensive player.
And I think one of the things that you have to believe that was really good and great about his interview when he talked to them, that he was able to make that point, obviously because he was named the new head football coach. But he understands what he's walking into. This is a program that it really wants to get out and really cause problems for defenses on the offensive side. The interesting thing is for him being as successful as a defense coordinator as he's been, he knows what gives his defense problems. And normally when you see those defensive guys get these positions, that's the type of offense they want to bring in. And he talked about being explosive, not just in the pass game, but the running game. So it'll be interesting to see when he gets into that a little bit more to kind of get an idea of what that looks like.
I do think it's challenging, and we've talked a lot about this. When you're a defensive-minded head coach, you don't necessarily want to win games 38-35, and that's kind of the way that college football is going in this day and age, right? Defensive-oriented coaches want to win them 14-10 or whatever it is. And I think that's been the balancing act. We've certainly seen it with the most successful coach in the game right now in Nick Saban, kind of coming around to, even though he was a defensive coach, understanding that to win at the very highest level in college football in this day and age, you're going to have to play a little bit more up-tempo. And it's pretty clear Ryan Walters has gotten that message. But give Purdue fans who maybe weren't watching Illinois that closely a sense of what they're getting as a defensive coach, because he's really good, Howard.
He really is. And I think one of the things that people think about, you talk about being a defensive coach and really being good at your job, is ultimately comes down to being able to dictate pace to offenses, really going after offense. Instead of being in a position where you're just reactionary, you're able to go out and really force the issue. And the offense has to make those adjustments, which they don't necessarily want to do. And that's what he brings. You talk about playing a strong 3-4 defense, being able to make things very difficult and complicated for, offensive linemen and offensive coaches to figure out. I spent some time getting prepared for the Big Ten championship with the Michigan coaches, and they raved about what this defense at Illinois was doing because they were so physical. They played the game really tough and hard, and that was really one of their toughest games. When you look at it on film, you look at the score, you watch the game. So you're getting that type of really attacking defense, and this is something he was able to do in 2 years. So,
with a lot of the same players. That's something that really struck me.
And to be able to do that, to me, that's being able to communicate with young people. And we talked about that in the open. That's the key, to be able to communicate with each one of those players, because it's going to be different to press buttons for different players. You just can't stand at the front of the room and just go with one blanket and say, this is the way we're going to do things, and this is how you should see it. Kids learn differently, and you've got to be able to have the ability not only to do that, but you have to now have other coaches that you can bring in that are going to be like-minded that can help you get your message across.
What's the challenge of being a head coach for the first time and being thrust into a conference that is as good as any in the country with some really good head coaches? Yeah,
a lot of good head coaches. I think it comes down to time management. When you think about it defensively, you talk about being a first-time head coach. Now all of a sudden you're not just talking with your guys, you're talking with the entire team. You're having to interact with everyone. Your time is going to be limited. Game management becomes an issue as well, things that you really have to go through. That's why I think it's always important that you're able to hire, a really good offensive head coach that really understands the game. So you can continue to grow as a head coach, but you can also learn to manage the game as that head coach, because it's different. I mean, it's one thing to be there as a coordinator, which is a huge step from being that position coach, but then all of a sudden when everybody's looking at you to make the right decisions, that's when it's all, you find out how good a head coach can be.
And I assume he will get this question from the media, and certainly when we get an opportunity to ask him, does he call the defensive plays? I mean, my sense is he does, right? I mean, this is his area of greatest strength, but we have talked often about how challenging it is for a defensive head coach to call the defense and also manage the game.
And manage the game. It's difficult. And to talk again, you're talking about a first-time head coach. We're not saying it's impossible. We know how bright he is. There's no question about that. He has the intellect to be able to do it, but it still comes down to being comfortable being able to do that. So you talk about a defensive coordinator, it really has to be someone who's been with him probably, or someone that's really like-minded doing some of the similar things that he's been doing.
As soon as they get started with Q&A with new head coach Ryan Walters out in West Lafayette, we will get you out there live. Again, Purdue naming Walters as its new head coach, the former defensive coordinator at Illinois, and no sooner said than done. It seems like they are ready to go. Howard, hold those thoughts. We head back out to Purdue.
Hey,
Angela Moran, wish to be in Indy. Congratulations, first of all. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Angela.
Why was it so important for your first order of business to give Devin a scholarship?
Well, I played against him, so I know exactly what he was capable of. He was hard to bring down, hard to tackle. In watching and evaluating tape throughout that week, I thought he was in the upper echelon of the running backs we had faced or were going to face this past season. So, found out he was not on scholarship, and now I'm like, shoot, this guy needs a scholarship, and I'm reminding myself like, well, yeah, you're the head coach, so you can do that. So talked to Mike about it, and he thought it'd be a great idea. And, I knew we were having the team meeting, and so I thought, shoot, why not first order of business, do what's right, and let's give Devin a scholarship.
Slight false start on my part. Please motion to our mic holders. That's my fault. So our guys on the sides here, get to them and please say your name and affiliation before asking a question. Thank you.
hey, Ryan. Tom Dienart with Golden Black. You talked in generalities about your offense. Can you give us any specifics on what you plan to do offensively, and also give us sort of an idea of where you're at with your staff, how soon you think you'll start making hires?
Yeah, so, the staff members I'm talking to, potential candidates for our offensive coordinator job, they're going to operate out of primarily 11 and 12 personnel. We're going to be balanced in the sense of if it requires us to run the ball to win the game, we're going to run it. If it requires us to pass it to win the game, we're going to pass it. As far as what type of schemes, I believe in using all 11. That doesn't mean our quarterback's going to be running around like crazy. But if he can get us a couple first downs in a game, that's awesome, and making the defense play with all 11 individuals on the field. As far as in the run game, we're going to mix up zone and gap schemes. We'll run inside zone, outside zone, some zone read, and then we'll run, counter, GT. We'll get creative in our personnel groupings and formations. So if we got 12 personnel out there, we could have the potential of being empty. We could give you an 11 picture, or we can give you a 21 picture, right? And so we'll be creative that way. Like I said earlier, we'll be strategically aggressive. I want our offense to do the things that I hate seeing on Saturdays as a defensive coordinator. I think there's this misnomer out there that defensive head football coaches, all of a sudden they just want to condense down a game and get good stats. I'm not into stats. I want to win games. And so, obviously, I've got a quarterback background. I want our quarterbacks to have success here, and we're going to be high-powered and high-flying on offense.
The transfer portal, your experience maneuvering and working in the portal, Ryan, and also how you feel, I know you haven't been on the job long, about your ability to retain most of these guys on this roster.
Well, that's what we're working through right now. My job right now is to get to know these guys. Start building trust and respect with the players in the locker room, and then from there, identifying what our needs are from a personnel standpoint, what our numbers are, and what holes we need to fill, and if that's with the high school recruit or a transfer portal, that'll be it. But again, that's all stuff that we're working through right now. I've been on the job for 48 hours.
And are you going to call the defense, or are you going to have a defensive coordinator call the defense?
I'm going to have a defensive coordinator, but I do believe that what I do is unique. I'm not shy in saying I think I'm the best defensive coordinator in the country right now. I think the numbers speak for themselves, and so I would not relinquish those duties unless I felt comfortable. So the defensive side of the ball has got to be taken care of. If that's with me, then that needs to be with me. But if I feel comfortable with the staff that we bring in and their abilities to do it as a high level as I could or better, then I'll do what's best for the program.
How do you feel about Purdue's NIL and collective situation? Is it a situation you think you can succeed with at the Big Ten level?
Absolutely. That's one of the things that was very attractive to me about this opportunity. Our administration, Mike here has done a great job with the collective, and we'll be in the upper echelon of the Big Ten.
Hi, Coach. Mick Walker, 24/7 Sports, Boiler Sports Report. Just from speaking to the current recruits, I know you can't get into specifics, but I know you reached out to most of them last night. What was that message just 24 hours a week into signing day? What was that message like?
Yeah, it was good to get on the phone with all of them. Letting them know that they fell in love with this place for a reason. And I know things that have changed, like the status quo is not the status quo, right? But that I'm excited to be their head coach, and that I'm looking forward to getting to know them and getting on the recruiting trail. So as soon as we break here, I'm gonna hit the ground running and starting to get in front of people.
Got you. And continuing with the recruiting trail, speaking to some coaches in the state and around the area, they know about you obviously from your success at Illinois, but they don't know a ton about you locally. What's your message to those local coaches, the in-state coaches that have made the programs that continue to help produce talent at Purdue?
My message to them is I can't wait to get to know you, and we're going to try to put a fence up around this state. There's a lot of high-quality football, not only talent from a player's stance, but really great coaches in this state. And so this Indiana is going to be a priority for us in the recruiting department.
And Wilson Moore, Indianapolis Star. You mentioned keeping guys committed to the program. What have those conversations been like, or what do you hope for them to be like to keep guys committed to Purdue?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, those conversations have been positive and productive. Obviously, this is a world-class institution from an academic standpoint. This is the best conference in college football. You can achieve everything that you want to from an on the field and off the field standpoint right here at Purdue. So that aspect of their commitment has not changed. The only thing that's changed is the guys in the building will be a little bit different. And so it's my job for them to get to know me, and for me to get them to believe in the direction and the principles that we're preaching.
And being a defensive guy, you touched on this earlier, what you want to do on offense, but in an offensive coordinator specifically, what kind of traits are you looking for?
Yeah, first off, everybody in the building is first and foremost going to be high character guys, no egos. Nobody can care who gets the credit. And then from there, we got to be high football IQ. So we're gonna teach these guys football, and not just schematics, but really how to play the game from both sides of the ball, so that we're not reacting to things on Saturday. We'll be anticipating things throughout the course of the game in order to win football games.
Chargers 101.7, the Hammer, and Saturday tradition. There's also a Purdue football game here in 2.5 weeks. What sort of will your involvement be, if at all, in preparation for that game?
Yeah, I won't have any involvement preparation-wise. This is their season. I want to allow them to continue to and put a stamp on the success that they've had this year. I'll be at the game. I'll watch the game. I'm not evaluating anybody. I'm not making suggestions. But I am excited to see them go compete. I know from competing against them, I know what kind of competitors are in that locker room. And I'll be cheering, harder than anybody else for them to get a W against the Tigers.
We've talked a lot about offense, I guess, without giving us the secret sauce, unless you want to. Tell us a little bit about your defense and what you do.
Yeah, like you said, without giving away the secret sauce, we are going to limit explosive plays. We're going to stop the run. We're going to confuse and harass the quarterback. If it all holds true, we're going to generate a lot of turnovers. And we're going to play fast. We're going to play sound. And there won't be any mental errors out there. So we won't beat ourselves defensively. We're going to play with confidence and an extra sense of physicality.
Yeah, hey, Ryan. Brian Newberg from goldenblack.com. What's the number one thing you look for in a recruit?
Do they love the game? You have to love football to be good at football. I think that's one thing that gets overlooked in the evaluation aspect of recruiting. Do they play football for the things that come with it? Like, are they more into, who's following them on Twitter or how many likes they're getting on Instagram? Or do they love the game for the game? And if they love the game for the game, then you got a chance to really maximize and realize their potential as fast as possible.
You're obviously still working on your staff, but do you have anybody else in the building with you right now recruiting, or are you going it alone?
I got the recruiting part of it that's here right now has really been helpful in giving me the information and setting up, what are our priorities and where we need to be headed. But yeah, right now I'm the only one in the building.
Yeah, Coach DJ Fessler of BuildingMakersCountry.com. As of now, you're the fourth youngest head coach now in the FBS. I guess, what have you learned to this point in your career? What are your biggest takeaways, and why was now the right time to make the jump to becoming a head coach?
Now was the right time. One, because I feel like I'm ready, and because of this opportunity. Right, a lot of times, especially in this profession, it takes a little bit of luck in terms of opportunities coming and then you being ready for them when they arise. And that's been something that has held true for me throughout my career. I was young as a position coach, and it just kind of happened, right? The timing of it happened, and I got the job. And then I was young as a play caller, and it just kind of happened, right? And so now, same thing, right? It was a different way of leading a search and the timing of it. But I'm more than ready. I've been ready, and I can't wait to go to work and make this the best decision of Mike's career.
Casey Bartley, Rivals Boiler Upload. This is obviously your first head coaching position at this level. From your experience and what you've seen, what are the pillars to being a successful head coach that you're going to look to become?
Yeah. First, the guys that I've been around that have been successful as head coaches, they're the same guy every day. You can copy a practice face, you can mimic a calendar, but you can't try to be somebody you're not, because if you are, then that means you're inconsistent. It's hard to be genuine, and it's hard to gain real relationships. And in this profession, because of the amount of time you spend with the amount of people that you spend in the building to have success, those relationships have to be real. And so I will be authentic. I'm going to be me. I'm not going to try to be anybody else. This is how I've gotten this far in my career. And because of that, I'll try to ask fast, gain the trust and the respect of the young men in the locker room. And I'm going to hire guys that are like-minded, that really care about these individuals as individuals, because they are.
A couple more for Coach, please.
Ryan, Sam King from Lafayette Journal and Courier. First of all, do you have a timetable on when you'd like to have a staff assembled? And I know you want to get the right candidates, but also realize what's quickly approaching here in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a couple guys that we're targeting pretty quickly that I've had on my radar for a long time. But at the same time, we're going to go through the process and vet the process to make sure that we're getting the right guys in the building. You get one shot at this deal, and I want to have as much success as we can have as a program. In order to do that, we've got to get the right guys in the building.
Obviously, this is your program. You're going to put your own stamp on it. But how important is it to kind of build off the history and the brand of what Purdue football is?
Yeah, it's not a rebuild, right? I'm trying to elevate and really dive into and understand the tradition and the standard here, and so it'll be my job to raise that standard and continue to chase and win championships.
Sorry, Val Ellis, Purdue exponent. You mentioned in your introductory message out there the importance of talking to Purdue football alums. You've obviously got a lot of people to meet, and it's only been a few hours, but have you had the chance to talk to any of them yet so far?
Just the ones that are around the building. I got to meet a couple yesterday, just walking through the administrative building as well. Like you said, it's been a crazy 48 hours, but I can't wait to meet everyone and really get to know everybody. This is a place that you can grow roots, and so I hope I'm here a long time.
And then, if I could press you a bit on the scheme of your defense, Purdue, while here under Jeff Baum, ran a 4-2-5 most often, whereas at Illinois it seemed to be mostly 3-4 with other looks mixed in. Would you be looking to transition out of that 4-2-5 to more of that three lineman front, or would it be adapting to the personnel here?
Well, so that's my job as a coach, is to adapt to the players, right? Obviously, I've got my own philosophies on scheme and alignment, but that's all for naught if the players aren't suited to do that, right? It's funny you say a 3-4, because that's pretty much how people describe it, just because they see the three down. But it's so unique that there's really nobody, there's no name for it yet. You know what I mean? So I gotta think of a name for it.
Ryan Joey Wagner with the Illini Inquirer. Out there, you called Brett Bielema a mentor. I guess, what did those last 2 years with him in this conference help you develop, and what that mean to you? And then what was his role in kind of navigating you through the process of becoming a head coach?
He was monumental in his role. I left the University of Missouri to go to Illinois to learn from him. Obviously, he's got his own coaching tree and history of defensive coordinators that have gone on to be head coaches. Dave Doran at NC State has had success there, and he was up under Coach B. Obviously, he's had himself a successful career as a head coach, and so being able to understand the ins and outs of being a CEO of a program, and really his availability to me and his the environment, the culture he created to allow me to grow as not only as a play caller but as a CEO and a leader. Those lessons that I will take forever, and I'm sure there'll be times where I'll call him to bounce some ideas off of him in the near future as well.
Okay, thanks everyone. We'll now take questions from AD Mike Babinski. Coach, if you could move the mic in front of you.
You've often mentioned the deeper pool of candidates. Can you put some context behind that now, how deep it was that he rose to the top of?
I think over the course of our 6 days, or however long it was, I've lost track of days or times here, that we evaluated and vetted more than a dozen people, either exploring interest or in fact talking specifically to. So we had a lot of folks that were in play here over the course of those 6 days, all really, really qualified and quality football coaches without a doubt. So we were very fortunate.
Mike, Mick Walker, 24/7 Sports. What stood out to you when it comes to talking to people or just seeing Ryan's track record as a recruiter and also as a developer of guys?
Sure. From a recruiting perspective, recruiting is relationships. It's the ability to connect with people, relate to people, and ultimately close. And I think everybody can get a very quick sense of sort of Ryan's ability to relate to people at all levels, and his communication, his authentic personality. I was not in the team meeting last night, but those that were, I mean that it's like an instant ability to connect. And so from that perspective, it was clear to me that this is a coach that can do that at a very, very high level, and the results speak for themselves. And I forgot the rest of your question, so there you go.
Just him as you bring in the talent and bring him here is one thing, but then to develop them.
Yeah. Well, I think so. People talk about the success that's happened in Illinois these last couple of years. It has not been because of an influx of just high-level players. It's taking a group of guys that were there and turning them into one of the, if not the best in some categories, defense in the country. That speaks to me very loudly about the ability to identify, develop, put people in the right place, and motivate them to perform at a high level. So I feel real good about that.
Hey, Mike, Tom Dienhart, Golden Black.
Yep.
Can you give us any sense at all on any contract terms at all? We know it's a 5-year deal, the assistant coaching salary pool. Again, I'm not sure if you can at this point, but if you can, fire away.
We'll get all that out quickly, Tom. I mean, but it's all done. We've all, in fact, when I called Ryan a couple nights ago, he answered the phone. He didn't say hello. He goes, "What the hell took you so long to call me?" And he said, I already signed the deal. I said, well, okay, well, that was easy. There wasn't a lot of salesmanship that had to go in on my part. And so, yeah, we're in great shape there, and that'll all be available here, Tom, as it usually is.
Val Ellis, Purdue exponent. Could you give us any insight into what the coordinator pool of money will look like? I believe under last year, the highest paid coordinator hovered around $550,000, whereas Walters here made $1 million over at Illinois. Will that look? That's
where he gets his fancy clothes from. Big salary. No, we have provided a pool for Coach Walters that he'll be able to allocate it however he wishes, and it's really competitive, and I think he's really pleased with what he's got to work with.
Any more questions? Okay. One more?
Sorry.
Two more? Okay.
Yeah. Sitting over here and listening to him talk about his defense and the smirk you got on your face. What is it about his defense that gives you that, and how much that played into? You mentioned before being somebody that's tough to prepare for. How much was that?
Well, I can tell you that when I spoke to my counterpart, who's a friend at Illinois, who played college football, played in the NFL, and knows the game really, really well. As he was describing Ryan to me, he goes, he's like a defensive savant. He goes, I've never seen anybody put a plan together in real time, make adjustments and reactions to what's happening like this coach can. I mean, he was incredibly complimentary. And one of the things that, Ryan, you'll see this as time goes by, if he in fact does call it here for a while. I mean, he doesn't have a sheet in front of him. I mean, he does it with intuition, feel, preparation. That is not your average coach. I mean, it's a different level of sort of owning that defense and understanding how it's sort of something that just evolves as it's happening, and that is different. I mean, it is really different and exciting, and I can't wait to see it, on our sideline.
Casey Bartley, Rivals, Boiler Upload. Did you go into this initially with head coaching experience, thinking that would be a pivotal part of who you wanted to get? And then what about Ryan, if that is the case?
Yeah. All things being equal, if we found somebody that brought everything else that we believe we see in Ryan and had also had head coaching experience, of course, that's pretty much common sense. But at the end of the day, it was about hiring the person that we felt was the very best for us at this moment in time, and ultimately had, and the way I've described it to anybody that's asked me, I think we've hired the person with the absolute highest ceiling of everybody we talk to. I mean, I don't think there's a limit to what we will accomplish and Coach Ryan Walters will accomplish here at Purdue. That's the most exciting thing to me, is that the upside is just spectacular, and I can't wait to see it start to unfold.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for coming. The recordings and the audio and video of all this will be available on our social media.
So there you have it. Ryan Walters joining Matt Rule and Luke Fickell as new head coaches in the Big Ten, not just in the Big Ten, but in the Big Ten West. It is the first time since 2015 that the Big Ten will bring in 3 new coaches in the West. Paul Chryst, Mike Riley, and Bill Cubitt were the 3 that year. Howard, lot there, lot to unpack. I thought the thing that stood out the most to me was Ryan Walters. I'm just going to repeat the quote. I'm the best defensive coordinator in the country right now. So it is an interesting challenge that is laid out here. He clearly believes in his system with good reason. But how do you do this balancing act? And he was asked about it. And I'm not sure he definitively said exactly how it's going to work.
And I think that's going to come down to who he's able to ultimately be able to hire to his staff on the defensive side. As he mentioned, he's only been on the job 48 hours, hasn't really been able to put his staff together. He's talking to people, but doesn't know who those people are going to be. He said, if I trust them, then I'll let them do it. But you have to also understand that he says, I'm unique at what I do. And that is something that he's got to continue to work on to grow that next defensive coordinator or that next assistant coach who's going to be in that position of calling plays. Because as great as it is to be able to call plays, I know that's what you want to do. I think as you continue to grow as a head coach, you have to be able to expand and be able to really touch the offense and be able to move around and really be the CEO of your program.
It feels to me like that is going to be the big challenge, maybe even just to kind of relinquish some of that control when you believe as steadfastly in yourself as he does, and again, with really good reason. Mike Bobinski talked about it. I think it's worth elaborating on for people maybe who haven't observed Ryan Walters in kind of this microscope, under the microscope, maybe in the way that we have. I mean, the man literally brings, it's probably a 3x5 car, I'm these 4x6 to the game, and that's his... That's his game plan, and they're leading the nation in scoring defense. So clearly it's working, and I think it speaks to the innate feel he has for a game that's just so different. Obviously a complete command of his defense, but also kind of, you and Jerry always say it's not about the plays, it's about when to call the plays.
Anybody can call the plays, but you know the right play that you're calling. There are very few people that can do that. And I had a chance to sit down with him earlier during the football season, and he kind of took me through, how he gets his team prepared. We were watching the film versus the Badgers, and the Badgers went right down the field on him. And he told the guys when they came off the field, don't worry, we're good. There's not a problem here. And when I asked, well, why wasn't it a problem? He said, we stopped their top 2 plays. The plays that they had that they were really able to move the ball were plays that we hadn't seen. So when we came to the sideline, made the adjustments we needed to, he says, okay, now look at it. He showed me the same identical plays that they struggled with in that first drive. They shut them down because the players had the ability to go out and react. And you heard him mention that, talking about being able to react to what they see. And it's about your players having confidence to be able to bring you the information to the sideline so that then you can make those proper adjustments. But he's done an unbelievable job. And I think one of the keys there is the AD talked about it. The talent that he had at Illinois, and you mentioned it, it wasn't like all of a sudden they ran out and got all these 4 and 5 stars. Guys, they did it with the guys that Lovie Smith had on that roster. And all of a sudden, this is what they produced some years down, a couple of years later. And it's really remarkable. So if you're Purdue, you're sitting there like, we got players. We've got players. We feel like we got players. And they do. So now, if they can get into this system, they can have the success. And I think ultimately they'll be able to do that on the offensive side as well.
How hard is it to get all these hires right the first time through? I do think that we have seen through the years, even at Illinois, right? I mean, Brett made a change after year one with his offensive coordinator. And Brett Bielema is an experienced veteran head coach. It almost feels like it's foolish to anticipate that you'd get everything right when you're assembling a staff. So kind of what's the challenge here ahead for Ryan Walters in terms of trying to assemble the best staff he can with more moving parts than there used to be, Howard, right? I do feel like the portal, NIL, and all this stuff makes this more complicated than it used to be. And oh, by the way, you've got a signing period next week, whereas it used to be that first signing period was in February.
It's going to be a huge challenge to be able to make the adjustments and try to put that staff together. And when you talk about being able to get the staff right the first time, it is really hard to do. And I can remember asking Urban Meyer this, and he said, Coach, how do you know if you have a great staff? I don't know until a year in, because I had heard coaches that came in around that time saying, oh yeah, I put a great staff together. So I wanted to ask him, okay, you should know, you've put some staff, you won some championships. How do you know? And he's like, you don't. You really don't know until you're working with people, you're watching them teach, you're seeing how they respond, how the players respond. You won't have an idea. You can go through the process all you want to, but you really have to make sure that you're diving into who that person really is that you're bringing into the building. He talked about that, getting the right people in the building. And you might not be able to do that in one interview. You may need to have them there a couple of days to see if that is actually the right fit. So it's a challenge.
What's your biggest takeaway from what we've heard today, whether it be from Mike Bobinski or from Ryan Walters?
I think they hired what they believe is the best candidate for them that's going to bring something special to Purdue, and along with keeping the tradition of having this high-flying offense. And let's remember, Coach Braun started to bring things back a little bit as well, with getting involved with the running game. So it wasn't that he wanted to throw it every down. I kind of felt like he had to. And once he was able to run the ball, he was able to get more balance, and they were able to have more success on that side of the ball.
I think where it's really fascinating to me is I think in leadership, part of the mark of great leadership is a conviction in what you believe in. And I think it's really easy at a place like Purdue to say, well, our identity is offense, and we're going to hire the best offensive mind out there and go find someone who's checking it all over the yard. But it's clear that they see something in Ryan Walters, which I think a lot of people have seen.
A lot of people are seeing.
That, hey, if we have an opportunity to get this guy, we can figure it all out because he's that good and that smart.
Right, and the key is, if you don't get it right the first time, be quick and make the adjustment. Just make the adjustment that you need to put the young people in the best position you can.
Absolutely. So congratulations to Ryan Walters. We will speak to him coming up a little bit later on Big Ten Today. Comes your way 1 hour from now.